Welcome to the Scary Stories channel, where the hair on the back of your neck will stand up and your heart will race with fear. Get ready to be transported to a world of terror and suspense, where anything can happen and nothing is as it seems. So sit back, turn off the lights, and let us take you on a journey to the dark and unknown. And don't forget to subscribe to never miss a single spine-chilling story. He promised himself he would quit after the last time, but here he was with a small square of aluminum foil gripped between his thumb and index finger. The last trip was challenging. He learned about the difference between a bad trip and a terror trip, and concluded the former was only difficult to overcome. Yet he enjoyed the outcome. He enjoyed never really knowing if he would come out okay. That was why he was back. The challenge wasn't enough to stop him. The last time he took acid, he was alone. He was feeling amazing until 15 minutes before his peak. Anxiety shot through him and he began to hear things in his home. Footsteps, voices, windows opening. He had reached for his phone to call one of his friends, but he couldn't see. Everything was melting. I am on a drug. But he couldn't convince himself. I am on a drug. This is not my reality, but he couldn't believe it. There was a gunshot. The voices grew louder and he could not discern if they were in his head. Pacing, pacing, pacing. His own steps assured him there was someone else. His reality was not his own. He felt detached. He wanted to run. Suddenly, his body felt hot and he began to remove his clothes, but his head was caught in his shirt and he panicked more, running and bumping into his furniture and screaming for someone to get him. More pacing, more breathing, punctuated, erratic speech, large pupils. He could see, but his house was dark. Lights poured in from the window in the door. The knob turned. Panic set his veins on fire. And he felt his throat constrict and his eyes grow even larger. He couldn't recognize his best friend as she opened the door. Thank God came when she did. After he stopped for 3 months, he became more productive, spent money on more important things, and had to deal with the twitch he developed from the trip. Now he's about to go on another, and this time no one knows. It was 8 o'clock. His house was lit with color-changing LEDs, soft music was playing, and he was wearing clothes fresh out of the dryer. The atmosphere was right. The dosage would be right. He had a different acid this time, from a different plug, but the friend he got it from swore it wouldn't give him a bad trip. But what if? He carefully unfolded the tin square. There were 2 tabs. One was cracked but the other was whole. Normal dose. He turned the music up, placed both tabs on his tongue, and waited for them to dissolve. He told himself this was for answers. Most people take SID to get a deeper understanding of themselves and the crossroads they've encountered. They would have the trip they needed, not the one they wanted, and everything would be fine. This was for him. He needed to know himself better. He knew the risk of this trip, as with every trip, and he accepted it. What if the lights got brighter? That was his first clue. The second was the simultaneous feeling of weightlessness and heaviness. His body was made of sandbags, but his inside was filled with air. There was a twinge of energy, extra energy. His body wanted to take off, but his enclosure held him still. And that was his third clue. The urge to escape. He overlooked it. This was not going to be a bad trip. This is what he needed to know himself. Then he felt like his head was underwater. Then the lights flickered and powered off for a second and no longer. Then it was his heart. It felt like it was beating too fast. And he needed to sit down, but only for a second or two or three, or he thought his heart would stop. If he rested too long. Then he took a breath. I am on a drug. This is what acid does. It is hallucinogenic. I am okay. His head felt light, floating, detaching. This is LSD. Hovering. I am okay. Descending. This is a drug. My reality is concrete. Connecting. It was working. He needed this. What if? His ascent was amazing. He understood himself on a deeper level, like everyone else had on their trips. There were some feelings of darkness, but he was ignoring it. The music was soothing his anxiety. Everything was well, but the darkness persisted. From his peripheries he saw shadows. Tall and slim and three-dimensional. Black circles flew by his television. Shadows and shapes were plastered on the walls like stickers. Some moved. Others did not. They came closer until his vision was gone. He felt water drip down his cheeks and he thought he was crying. His skin was crawling. He started scratching. He felt bugs crawling on his skin, thousands of them coming from his paws. They were under his nails, in his shirt and nose and mouth. He was scratching vigorously, but the bugs kept coming. Bugs on bugs on bugs on his skin. In his